Hello, this is Tammy Workman, and this is a presentation of child and adolescent emotional and mental abuse. Quote, emotional abuse involves a broad range of tactics, including shaming and gaslighting, which are meant to leave you feeling powerless, hopeless, and less. End quote. When a child or adolescent is mentally or emotionally abused, they will have long-term lasting effects well into adulthood. I can speak from experience in that the physical abuse that I endured left physical scars, but the emotional and mental abuse I suffered through left emotional scars that I have had a much more difficult time healing from. Even to this day, after years of therapy, I still question my value and worth as a human being due to the awful things that were said and done to me growing up. Oftentimes, it is more difficult to identify mental or emotional abuse because the physical characteristics of abuse may not be present. Being continuously put down, yelled at, blamed, or manipulated causes many long-term effects on a child or adolescent into their adulthood. In order to develop healthy relationships, a person must have appropriate relationships modeled for them at an early age. When those relationships are unhealthy and abusive, a person will grow up in an environment in which they lack healthy boundaries, or even the ability to make these boundaries, allowing people to take advantage of them in relationships. These individuals will possibly act out or behave inappropriately for their age of development. They may acquire coping skills that are unhealthy or inappropriate, and they may have difficulty regulating their emotions. Short-term effects of mental emotional abuse for children or adolescents include difficulty forming bonds with peers, possibly abusing their peers themselves, difficulty with academics and focusing, a distracted demeanor, feel fear, loneliness or isolation, shame, guilt, feeling as though everything in the world that has gone wrong is their own fault and that they somehow brought this abuse on themselves. The long-term effects of mental and emotional abuse are devastating to an individual, and without therapeutic interventions, a person will continue to struggle with the feelings of inadequacy and low self-worth. Individuals who suffered through mental or emotional abuse will have long-term effects in their lives, such as having mental health disorders, a tendency to feel negative emotions very strongly, chronic stress, being emotionally disconnected from others, and even have the tendency to have issues with healthy attachments. The actual chemical makeup of the child or adolescent's brain is actually changed when the individual is exposed to mental or emotional abuse. The effects of this brain trauma are permanent, leading to the necessity for therapeutic help as an adult. Quote, childhood abuse and neglect can result in permanent changes to the developing human brain. These changes in brain structure appear to be significant enough to potentially cause psychological and emotional problems in adulthood, such as psychological disorders and substance use misuse. End quote. In order, in order to best reach individuals who have been exposed to mental and emotional abuse, a variety of techniques must be used due to the very different circumstances that each person brings to the table. Trust must be built in a relationship with a person who has experienced mental or emotional abuse. Issues of trust surface in every area of their lives of these individuals due to their adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. ACEs have been defined as stressful experiences occurring during childhood that directly impact on a child or affect the family environment in which they live. They include physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, neglect, or household adversity as a result of domestic violence, imprisonment, substance abuse, parental mental health problems, or family breakdown. End quote. These individuals will need to learn how to regulate their emotions and how to utilize coping skills to process through the everyday things that will trigger a negative emotional response. Through the process of building trust and learning how to regulate emotions, individuals who have been exposed to mental or emotional abuse will be able to begin to form healthy, meaningful relationships. Therapeutic interventions are a must for individuals who have been exposed to mental or emotional abuse. Cognitive behavioral therapy, as well as other therapies, have proven to be very effective in the treatment process for victims of mental and emotional abuse. Psychoeducation, parent and foster care training, wrap-around service training and services, educational interventions, as well as environmental analysis will all help in the interventions needed to address the circumstances affecting the mentally, emotionally abused individual. In order for an individual to process through their mental and emotional abuse, adolescents must feel safe and supported by the people in their lives who are wanting to help them. Children and adolescents cannot develop healthy relationships as adults if these issues aren't dealt with through the child or adolescent's development. Experiencing fear, quote, experiencing fear of the attachment figure and confusion about relationships are argued to be the central features of disorganization seen in adulthood, end quote. This fear infiltrates the adult relationship in ways that cause distress within that relationship. Fear within a relationship can cause a person to become overly attached, desperately fearful that the relationship will end, leaving them alone once again. The fear of abandonment is a very real fear due to the lack of healthy attachments early in life. Victims of mental or emotional abuse will cling to the possibility of having a healthy relationship, so much so that it can be codependent and suffocating in nature. Quote, people with abandonment issues live in fear of losses. They may also exhibit behaviors that push people to leave so they're never surprised by the loss. End quote. It is essential that children and adolescents seek out treatment as soon as possible for as long as it takes to work through and process the maltreatment they experienced in their youth.